Hello, I'm glad you are here tonight. Before we begin, let the hours behind you melt away like mist dissolving into the air. Let your breath move in an easy rhythm, gentle and steady, as though the world itself were resting. Whatever moment surrounds you now, deep night or a quiet dawn, allow it to soften until only calm remains. Imagine a sky before stars, only a tender darkness cool, and still carrying a shimmer that feels like a promise not yet spoken. Around you, silence stretches wide, and hidden clouds drift slowly, as if waiting for the first light to rise. Was the universe born from nothing? It is not a sudden spark, but a story that unfolds through stillness itself. A tale of shadow, of quiet, and of light, learning how to appear. What if nothing was never empty at all, but a quiet cradle holding the first hint of everything to come? Perhaps you're listening from a dim corner or near a window touched by night air. Wherever you are, we are here together under the same sky, sharing the same silence. If journeys like this bring you ease, you are welcome to stay, to drift with the words, no rush, only a quiet place beside the glow of thought. So, let your mind follow the rhythm of calm waters, and together we will walk gently into the question, was the universe born from nothing? And so, the story drifts onward as quietly as a breath moving through the dark. Nothingness is not the absence of all, but a gentle state of waiting, a pause before form a silence that carries the outline of what may one day appear. In simple words, it is not a place where existence is erased, but rather where matter has not yet taken shape, where light has not yet chosen to shine, where sound has not yet learned its voice. It is like a room held in perfect stillness, not empty, but softened, resting untouched. This nothingness may be thought of as a night sky before dawn, a vast veil of shadow that is not heavy, but tender, a quiet fabric spread wide across everything. In that darkness, there is no need to hurry, for it holds its own calm rhythm, like the rise and fall of a sleeper's breath, steady and unbroken, patient in its flow. The silence does not press, it only surrounds as if offering the mind a place to settle, a cradle woven of shadow. One might call it emptiness, yet even the word carries weight, and so it is lighter to think of it as a pause, like the moment when the tide pulls back before returning, or when a heart rests between its beats. The pause is not barren, it is full of the possibility of what is to come, soft as a seed beneath the soil unseen, but already dreaming of growth. It asks for no effort, no answer, only a quiet listening. The stillness of nothingness has no edges, no walls, no boundaries to hold the mind. It flows outward, endless, and the more one listens, the more it feels like a slow lullaby, a rhythm without sound, a silence that hums as if the universe itself were breathing. Within that breath lies a promise not yet light, not yet form, only a resting place where all beginnings sleep. And in this gentle resting, the thought unfolds, nothingness is not truly nothing. It is a waiting dusk, a breath held before the morning, a silent sea beneath which every star still sleeps. The stillness itself becomes a path, carrying us softly toward what follows. In the quiet hours of long ago, people gazed at the same night sky, dark and unbroken, and wondered how it all began. They did not speak of particles or numbers, but of gods, of breath of silence given shape. To them, the beginning was not a clash of forces, but a soft unfolding, as natural as sleep turning into dream. It was easier to imagine the world as something sung or breathed or whispered than as an empty void. And so, the old stories linger, as gentle as lullabies carried across centuries. The Egyptians who watched the sun rise each day over the wide river told of Ra, the sun god whose breath brought forth the world. Breath, a simple rhythm of life, became the measure of existence itself. To breathe out was to create, to breathe in was to rest. In this way, the universe was like a chest rising and falling, steady and eternal. The sky, the land, the waters, all were held inside the long and patient breathing of a god. It was a picture not of noise or violence, but of calm expansion, as though every dawn were a reminder that life is born quietly with the same ease as the drawing of air. In India, the old songs spoke of Brahma, whose own breathing carried the rise and fall of the cosmos. When Brahma inhaled, worlds dissolved into stillness. When he exhaled, worlds bloomed into being. One cycle after another, like tides swelling and retreating, like seasons folding into each other without end. For those who listened, the universe itself was not fixed or rigid, but as fluid as sleep, and waking as endless as the turning of breath. There was no hurry, no beginning marked by a sudden strike, only the assurance that in the inhale and the exhale, creation always found its place. And so, listening to this story, one can almost hear the quiet rhythm of existence as a deep and gentle sigh. The Greeks too imagined the first moment not as light or form, but as chaos, though the word was not a storm or disorder, but an open gap, a vast space of possibility. It was the yawning dark, a cradle wide enough to hold every shape that would follow. Chaos was like a fertile night, silent, yet waiting, soft, yet endless, carrying in its still folds the promise of all that could be. To them, the void was not frightening, but essential, for from its open arms, the earth, the sky, and the gods themselves could slowly awaken. Just as sleep holds the seeds of morning, chaos held within it the seeds of worlds. Each of these stories, though told in different tongues, carried the same breath of comfort. They did not paint the beginning as violence, but as softness, as rhythm, as a tide that rises and falls without strain. Breath, silence, darkness, all were given meaning. All became images that human hearts could understand. For in the vast unknown, what is more familiar than breathing? What is more constant than night turning to dawn? These images folded the immeasurable into the human, and in doing so, brought peace. Listening now, the old voices are like distant songs, no longer bound to temples or firesides, but floating quietly in memory. They are not lessons to be solved, but lullabies to be heard. The breath of Ra, the sigh of Brahma, the cradle of chaos, all drift together like currents in one sea, like stars woven into one sky. And in their slow weaving, a thought unfolds. Perhaps the universe itself is not born of violence, but of quiet patience, of rhythm, of rest. And so the stories continue, like whispers folded into the dark, reminding that every beginning can be gentle, every silence can be full, and every night may carry within it the dream of dawn. The silence widens, and within it, the next idea begins to breathe. In the language of science, the idea of nothing is not an absolute emptiness, but something gentler, a quiet stage where faint traces still drift. Even in a place that seems bare, there remain delicate movements, as if the air itself were humming beneath the silence. The word vacuum is often used, yet this vacuum is not a void stripped of all but a field, with hidden tremors, a background that stirs like a breath too subtle to hear. To think of it is not to imagine a hollow, but to picture a resting space, wide and tender, with currents unseen flowing like whispers across a calm night. One may imagine a surface of water, still under the moon, a lake that looks flat and unbroken to the eyes. Yet when watched closely, soft rings begin to appear, circles expanding and dissolving into one another, faint but unending. The emptiness of space is much the same, appearing silent, yet holding within itself the smallest quivers, the tiniest ripples. These are not loud or forceful, but like the secret stirrings of a sleeper's breath, unnoticed, unless one listens with care. The lake is never truly motionless, and the void is never truly empty, for silence itself has texture, and stillness carries its own hidden rhythm. Physicists call these tremors quantum fluctuations, a phrase that sounds heavy but can be softened when seen as a dance too fine for the eye. They are like drifting motes of dust suspended in a beam of light, moving only when one pauses to notice. They are the restless whisper of reality itself, small and fleeting, but endless in their quiet repetition. In this way, nothing becomes less of a wall and more of a veil, thin and transparent, woven with threads of unseen motion. To think of it so is to rest, not to worry, for what is hidden need not be harsh. It is only the murmur beneath the lull of the world. In the night sky, what looks like blackness is filled with this subtle motion, soft and continuous, like the tide pulling gently against the shore. The universe, even in its silence, carries a low hum, a steady breath that has never ceased. To see nothing in this way is to see it as a patient, ground cradle that holds both silence and possibility. The stillness is not a dead end, but a gentle floor, wide and quiet, carrying all that will come to rest upon it. And so, what science calls nothing is not truly nothing. It is a soft fabric, a waiting surface, a calm lake under the moon, where faint ripples drift outward endlessly, tenderly, and without end. Within the hush, the story leans forward, soft as air. There was a moment far before memory when the universe was only quiet. In that time, there was no star, no sound, no measure of night or day, only a heavy calm stretched without end. The stillness was not cold, nor harsh, but soft, like a dark ocean, resting beneath the surface of itself. To imagine it is to imagine a pause so complete that even the thought of light had not yet formed a hush that felt infinite, as though time itself were taking its first slow breath. In this early waiting, no color touched the void, for color requires light, and no whisper stirred the expanse, for whisper requires air. What existed was a fullness of silence, a blanket drawn across everything. It was a silence so deep, it seemed to hold its own weight, as if leaning gently upon itself. One might picture a night sky emptied of stars, still stretching endlessly, carrying nothing but its own patience. The mind may wander there and feel the way it feels before sleep, when the body is quiet and the breath has slowed to its most natural rhythm. The scientists call this span the Dark Age, though the words may sound firmer than the reality. It was not an age of despair, but of rest, an age when the universe lay in its cradle, eyes closed, waiting to open. The dark was not a threat, but a cover like the shadow of evening that prepares the ground for dawn. Every horizon held only stillness, yet in that stillness lay the softness of a promise, the suggestion that light would one day find its way. And so, the dark was not empty. It was a gentle holding a breath, drawn in and kept not yet released. One might imagine standing in that vastness, if standing there were possible, and finding no edges, to touch no walls, to break the view, only an endless spread of quiet that seems to listen to itself. The air, if there had been air, would have felt cool and smooth like stone at night. The silence, if it could be heard, would have been round and steady, as though it carried a pulse too slow for human ears. It was not a silence that ends, but a silence that holds like the calm surface of water before a ripple, like the hush of a room before a child stirs in sleep. And in that waiting, the universe itself seemed to pause not in fear, but in composure, like a sky nipping its breath before exhaling the first light. The image is simple, a darkness wide, and breathing a patient dusk, not yet ready to release the morning. This pause is not unlike the stillness between heartbeats, a space unnoticed until one listens closely. In that space lies the secret of rhythm, for without the pause, the beat cannot flow. Without the waiting, the arrival cannot bloom. So the early universe rested in its silence, not as a void, but as a womb, not as absence, but as expectancy. The darkness was a gentle veil, tender and unbroken, holding the seeds of light like stars still asleep beneath the waves of night. To listen to it now is to listen to a lullaby so deep it hums without sound, a melody too slow to rush, carrying no urgency, no alarm. And just as the night leans toward morning, so too did this silence lean toward the moment when light would stir. It was a leaning so subtle, so hushed, it felt almost endless, yet it moved, as all things move, with the soft pull of time, like a sleeper turning toward wakefulness, like the sea rising gently toward the shore. The universe waited calm and unbroken, readying itself without haste. Thus the moment before the first dawn was not absence, but a breath held in patience, not nothingness, but a stillness deep enough to cradle all beginnings. The quiet lingers, and within its softness, the next thought gently unfolds. Within the hush of the universe drifts a breath so soft it seems invisible, yet it never fades. This breath is what some call nothingness, though it is less an absence than a quiet layer hidden, yet steady, like the fabric beneath a tapestry, holding every star, every motion, every whisper of life. It is always present, too gentle to be noticed, too constant to be lost. This presence of nothingness is less a void and more a resting ground, a silence beneath sound, a darkness beneath light. It is there in the space between thoughts, in the still pause that lets words find meaning. It is there in the air between heartbeats, short and fragile when measured, yet holding the very rhythm of life. The pause is delicate, but it is also necessary, for without it the beat could not continue, and without it the song could not unfold. So too does the universe rest on this unseen pause, this quiet breath, hidden in its own silence. To imagine nothingness is to picture a night sky where no star yet shines, but where the canvas waits wide and receptive. It is like a sea before ripples, smooth as glass appearing empty, yet able to carry every wave. The image does not unsettle. Instead it soothes, for it suggests that even in silence there is holding, and even in absence there is presence. The mind, resting in this thought, may find itself drifting gently like a leaf upon still water, carried not by noise but by the hush beneath. Scientists sometimes describe this layer as a field unseen but unbroken, always present beneath matter and light. The word may sound firm, but it can be softened into an image, a veil stretched across the universe so fine that it cannot be touched, yet so wide that it covers all. To rest in that veil is to be covered, sheltered by something invisible, but sure. It is a blanket of silence drawn not over the body, but over the world itself, a reminder that behind every flicker of light, there is always shadow, and behind every sound, there is always stillness. And in this stillness, nothingness speaks its quiet truth. It is not gone. It is not lost. It breathes beneath all beginnings, waiting with the patience of dusk before dawn. It rests between the beats of time, a whisper soft enough to calm the mind, steady enough to hold the stars. In its presence, the universe continues, and in its whisper, rest is found as though every silence were a cradle, and every pause a lullaby. And from that still pause, the next breath of the universe slowly gathers. The silence that held the universe wide and unbroken begins to lean toward change, not with force, but with the soft inevitability of a breath returning after its pause. There was no clash, no shattering sound, only the quiet suggestion that stillness itself could open. In that subtle turning, something began, not sudden, but natural, like a tide that slowly reaches back toward the shore. The waiting calm did not end abruptly, but stretched and then loosened, as though dusk had decided to give way to dawn. And within this loosening, the first beginning unfolded. What many call the Big Bang is not to be thought of as a bang at all, not a violent breaking of silence, but more like an exhale, long delayed. It was the expansion of space itself, not a single spark tearing the dark, but a breath widening, like air released into night. In that exhale, the universe stretched as though its very fabric were unrolling tenderly, like a sheet drifting outward in the wind. The silence did not vanish, but was carried with the breath turning from stillness into motion, soft, unhurried, yet endless. One might picture this moment as a seed beneath soil, resting in darkness until at last its shell softened and a small crack appeared. It is not noise, it is not drama, it is the beginning of growth, quiet and unseen, yet filled with promise. The seed does not burst apart with fury, it simply opens because opening is its nature. The universe too unfolded in this way, a shell breaking softly in silence, a hidden germination in the cradle of night. The dark soil of nothingness held the seed, and within the pause of ages, the first sprout stretched itself into being. There are old tales that echo this softness. In the stories of China, there was Pangu, the primordial being who slept within the egg of chaos for a time immeasurable. He rested wrapped in the hush of undivided space, and when at last his eyes opened, his breath flowed outward, and the sky rose from the earth as easily as mist rising from a valley. It was not a clash, but a parting, as natural as eyelids lifting after long sleep. Heaven and earth, light and shadow, began to separate with the same quiet rhythm as breath moving in and out. In the calm image of that myth, creation was not a strike, but a sigh, not an explosion, but an unfolding. So too may one imagine the universe's beginning, not a chaos of violence, but a widening calm, a shift in stillness. Space, stretched time, began to move. Matter came to rest into patterns, like threads slowly weaving. It was a release so soft that the metaphor of breathing seems closest, for it was not an instant of noise but a rhythm starting. The breath of the cosmos expanded, and in that exhale lay all futures, folded like hidden notes in a melody not yet played. It was the beginning of a song whose tempo is measured not in moments, but in ages, and whose tone is quiet enough to be mistaken for silence itself. Imagine lying beneath a night sky, dark and vast, and feeling it slowly expand above you, not rushing, not ending, only stretching wider. This is how the universe began, not with fire that deafens, but with breath that lengthens. The stillness of before was not broken, but turned into motion, like a river beginning to flow. Drifting with this thought, the calm of that first movement appears not alarming, but reassuring, as though every beginning is already gentle when seen from within its rhythm. And so, the birth of the universe was not a sudden noise, but a breath that had waited to be taken a seed, that had waited to split a myth, that had waited to be told. Science and story converge in this softness, each describing the same truth in different language, that creation unfolds as naturally as sleep turning into dream. There is no violence here, only the steady widening of calm into form, the quiet sigh of nothing becoming something. And within this sigh, all that is known and all that is unknown found its place to begin. The quiet deepens again, and in its depth the next thought prepares to rise, as though one breath once released leads gently to another. And from that first breath of unfolding, the universe carried within it a promise, something waiting quietly to be revealed. The darkness did not end, but it began to soften, like a long night leaning toward morning. In that endless expanse, light prepared itself, not rushing, not tearing the shadows apart, but arriving slowly with patience as deep as the silence that held it. It was as though the universe itself had taken a breath, and with the next exhale, a glow began to form. When light finally escaped, it was not an explosion, not a sudden blaze, but more like the slow rising of dawn across a still horizon. The photons, those tiny carriers of brightness, drifted outward as if they had been waiting for a door to open. They moved not with force, but with calm persistence, filling the vastness the way morning air fills a quiet room. It was as if the night itself had decided to ease its grip, loosening slowly, releasing its hold to let the first shimmer breathe. One may imagine it as a candle touched to flame in a darkened chamber. At first the flame is small, a flicker against the great weight of shadow, yet the darkness bends gently around it. The room does not vanish. It only becomes less deep, less heavy as the light stretches outward. Each corner receives its touch in time, and though the candle is quiet, its presence changes everything. So too did the universe change. When its first light began to wander outward, the light did not rush. It spread with the same pace as a sunrise unfolding the sky, shifting shade by shade, each one too subtle to name. Darkness gave way, not in defeat, but in balance, sharing its silence with the brightness that came. For in truth, light and dark do not battle. They coexist like inhale and exhale, each necessary, each part of the same rhythm. The universe, in its earliest glow, was not divided. but joined as though both shadow and shimmer had found a way to rest side by side. This gentle illumination carried no urgency. It was the natural next step in a journey that had no haste. Imagine a long night of winter when the air is still and the world is covered in quiet frost. And at last, the faintest blush appears along the edge of the sky. It is not sudden, but it changes everything because it reminds that darkness is never alone, that within it rests the seed of dawn. The first light of the universe was just so tender, gradual, certain. In the hush of those ages, matter and light began their first dance. Simple forms of substance drifted waiting, and light threaded between them, as if weaving a fabric that shimmered in places unseen. No voice spoke, no hand moved, only the rhythm of natural, unfolding quiet, as waves sliding onto a shore. The glow that traveled outward carried with it the song of beginnings, not loud, but steady, a hum that filled the silence with a softer silence. To think of it now is to picture not the glare of fire, but the calm of early morning. The universe was like a field touched by first light, each blade of grass slowly catching the glow, each shadow retreating only enough to make space. That moment itself moves in a way that is unhurried, steady, soothing, as though time were breathing, slowly showing that creation can arrive without rush, without strain. Even in myth and story, light often comes gently. It is the lamp lit at nightfall, the star rising at evening, the torch carried into caves where silence is deep. These images remind that illumination does not have to roar. It can whisper, it can sigh, it can hum its way into being. The first light of the cosmos was such a whisper, quiet yet endless, a flame that would grow not in bursts but in patience. And so the universe, once only silence, now held a glow. It was not the end of the dark, but its companion, resting beside it. The stars were not yet formed, the galaxies not yet gathered, but already the story had shifted as though a new breath had been taken. The cosmos was no longer waiting, it was waking. And as this light spread across the silent fabric, the story drifts forward again, carrying us toward the next unfolding, as softly as dawn gives way to day. The glow that spread across the young universe did not move alone, for alongside the light came the first forms of matter, simple and quiet. Out of the soft unfolding of the cosmos appeared hydrogen and helium, the earliest building blocks, not loud in their presence, but delicate like the first letters written upon an endless page. They were few, yet within them rested the rhythm of all that would come after. One might think of them as the alphabet of creation, only 2 characters to begin with, yet enough to carry the weight of a story that would stretch across eternity. Hydrogen, the lightest breath of matter, and helium, its gentle companion, drifted through the widening space. They were not arranged in patterns, yet not woven into stars or galaxies, only floating in stillness, waiting like quiet notes upon a staff of music not yet played. Their presence was soft, but it was also steady, like seeds resting in soil, already containing the song of the forest to come. In this way, the early universe began to find its language, not a language of words, but of particles of simple elements, repeating themselves, forming the syllables of existence. To imagine this is to picture a composer who begins with only 2 tones, playing them slowly, patiently, allowing them to linger in the air. From those tones in time, an entire symphony could rise. So, too did the cosmos hold its breath, carrying hydrogen and helium like faint chords suspended in silence, waiting for the melody of stars. The stillness was not empty, for within it, these elements whispered their potential. Hydrogen so abundant and light moved gently through the expanse, like a breath in open air. Helium soft and stable floated beside it, a companion in the calm. Together, they filled the silence with possibility. Though no ear could yet catch its whisper, the universe had found its first letters, its first language, its first way of speaking, not with voice but with presence. And in that presence, the future was already written, though it had not yet been read. To imagine them more clearly, one may picture ink dropped upon water, spreading softly in rings, merging without effort, coloring what had once been clear. The hydrogen and helium moved in just such a way, weaving gently into the fabric of space. Their arrangement was still unformed, yet like scattered notes. In the air, they promised a song, one that would require time and patience to be heard. Nothing hurried. Everything drifted at the pace of breath, steady, unbroken, timeless. It is a comforting thought that from so little, so much could grow. 2 letters becoming a library, 2 tones becoming a symphony, 2 seeds becoming a forest without end. The universe, in this quiet stage, did not need urgency. It carried within itself the knowledge that every great story begins in whispers, and every great rhythm begins with a pause. The hydrogen and helium were those whispers, those pauses, those soft beginnings, filling the expanse with the quiet assurance that more would come. And though science gives them names, the heart may see them differently. They are not only elements, they are the first breath of matter, the first lullaby sung in the dark. Hydrogen is the exhale, helium, the inhale, together, forming the rhythm of a sleeping cosmos. With each quiet repetition, they made the universe less silent, though the sound was too soft to be heard. It was a music beneath music, a vibration beneath silence, a hymn that carried without voice. So, the language of matter began with only 2 symbols, repeating, expanding, floating. They were not finished words, only beginnings, like syllables on the lips of a child, before speech, like chords struck gently on strings before the song. And yet from them everything else would be born: the stars, the galaxies, the planets, the very atoms of life. From their simplicity would rise the endless complexity of creation, all of it hidden here in this first alphabet, this first quiet breath of matter. And as the story drifts on, the thought rests gently. The universe was already speaking softly, patiently, in the only language it knew: hydrogen and helium, the first notes of a lullaby without end. And from the quiet syllables of matter, the story leans onward, as though the next breath were beginning to lengthen. The universe already filled with light, and the first elements did not remain still. It began to stretch, not with haste, but with a calm widening, like a chest rising slowly in sleep. This was not a sudden act, but a rhythm that had already begun unfolding, gently carrying silence with it. The expansion of space was not a tearing, but a drifting apart, smooth and patient. Galaxies that would one day form were not yet gathered, but the fabric that would hold them was already stretching. To imagine this is to picture a vast cloth drawn steadily across a frame, the threads loosening but not breaking the weave, widening yet still whole. No rush was present, no urgency, only the unbroken movement of space extending itself. The stillness was not lost. It simply grew larger, like a room whose walls were gently pushed outward. This stretching of space was more than movement. It was rhythm, slow and steady, like the lengthening of a breath taken deep and then released. With every quiet expansion, the distances grew, yet no sound was made. It was silence turning into space, a lullaby sung, not with notes, but with distance. Just as the tide withdraws softly, making the shore wider without a crash, the universe widened its edges, flowing outward like water moving without hurry. The image of fabric suits this unfolding well. One may imagine a veil so thin it can barely be seen, drawn little by little, so that it smooths itself across a greater distance. In this veil, threads do not snap. They yield, they stretch, they flow. Space itself was such a veil woven from nothing, yet holding everything, spreading without noise, carrying matter and light in its gentle weave. It was less an act of force and more an act of patience, an unhurried movement that filled silence with more silence. Every widening was part of a larger cycle, a breath that did not end in one moment, but continued soft and flowing. Expansion is often described as motion, but here it may be seen as a song, one that grows quieter the more it lengthens. The tempo of this symphony was unmeasurable by ordinary time, for its measures were vast, yet the rhythm remained gentle, as if the universe itself were resting into a deeper state of calm. The thought brings comfort that creation did not arrive in thunder, but in steady flow. The cosmos widened, not like a strike of lightning, but like a day that grows longer toward summer, little by little, unnoticed, until its fullness is felt. Hydrogen and helium drifted within this widening, like faint notes carried across a hall, never lost, only made softer by distance. Light, too, spread more freely, filling the veil of space with its calm presence, all of it part of the same expansion, part of the same quiet music. One might picture the movement as breath once more, for the cosmos seemed to inhale and exhale in ways unseen. The inhale gathered the first elements. The exhale sent them outward again and again, a rhythm so vast that it can only be felt in imagination. To rest in this thought is to see the universe not as rushing forward, but as leaning gently outward, a patient tide that carries all things in its current. The symphony of expansion was not heard, but it was present, filling silence with motion, as tender as air moving through leaves. The story of space widening is a reminder that silence itself can be active. Even when nothing seems to stir, the fabric of reality continues to breathe. The distances continue to stretch. The cloth continues to be drawn. It is not emptiness, but a widening presence, a soft extension of all that is. Like the slow turning of night toward morning, it unfolds without disruption, only with rhythm, only with calm. And so, the universe did not rush. It expanded with the patience of sleep, the length of dreams, the steadiness of breathing. The symphony it played was one of distance woven, without sound, measured not by speed, but by stillness, stretching. In this way, the cosmos continued its gentle unfolding, not in bursts, but in waves of quiet lengthening, as though every thread of space were a note held softly in the air. The calm drifts onward, and within it, the next thought begins to take shape, like another breath waiting patiently to be released. The widening of space carried the story onward, as if the cosmos breathed in a rhythm without end. The universe, already vast, did not hurry in its unfolding. It expanded and changed, yet never rushed, never forced moving, instead with the calm pace of silence itself. What appeared as growth was more like drifting, more like breathing, more like time stretching into its own stillness. The cosmos carries its story across billions of years, though the measure does not feel heavy. Each span of time is but a single note in a long lullaby held softly and released slowly, like the hum of air that continues even when no ear is listening. Galaxies form, stars awaken, planets gather their shapes, all of it happening with the patience of ages. There is no urgency in this unfolding, no haste pressing forward, only the assurance that everything finds its place in its own time. To imagine this is to see a river flowing toward the sea. The river does not rush, though it always moves. It bends and widens, sometimes hidden, sometimes bright, but always continuing. Its waters do not question where they go. They follow the pull that guides them, steady and unbroken. The sea waits, vast and endless, and the river arrives, not with noise, but with constancy. In this way, the universe flows, not hurried, not still, but steady as water, finding its way home. Silence has always been its companion. The movements of space are not heard, but felt like a pulse beneath a quiet surface. The galaxies drift farther apart, yet the drifting carries no sound, only the soft rhythm of distance widening. Time itself seems to breathe, not measured in hours or days, but in waves of unfolding that stretch beyond counting. The stillness is not empty, it is filled with this slow current, a current that cradles all creation in its calm. One may see it as a song, though the notes are spread so widely that they seem almost still. The melody is not lost, it is simply unhurried, each tone echoing for ages before the next begins. Stars are born live and fade, but their cycle is less like a sudden spark than like a lantern slowly dimming after long hours of glow. The universe does not forget them. It weaves their remnants into the next verse, making every end a gentle beginning. In this unhurried flow, even darkness has its place. The spaces between galaxies are wide and silent, yet they carry the rhythm as surely as light does. Shadow is not absence here, but a pause the way silence rests between notes in music, making the song deeper. The balance of light and dark, of presence and pause, gives the cosmos its steady cadence, a cadence that never falters, even as it drifts through infinite time. To rest in the thought of such patience is to feel the calm it brings. Nothing is demanded, nothing is forced. The stars will form when conditions allow, planets will gather when dust finds its balance, and life will rise when the moment is quiet enough to hold it. All of this happens not in a rush, but in harmony with the universe's long breath. Just as the tide waits for the moon and the dawn waits for the turning of the earth, so too does every unfolding wait for its hour, never early, never late. The image returns of a river flowing toward the sea. Its surface may glimmer in sunlight or lie dark under clouds, but its current remains the same. It continues unbroken, drawn by a pull it does not resist. The sea does not call for haste, for the river will arrive in its own rhythm. The universe mirrors this truth. for its vastness moves in the same way, unhurried, certain, and endlessly calm. And so, the cosmos carries its story, not in leaps, but in flows, not in noise, but in silence, not in hurry, but in patience. Every star, every galaxy, every breath of matter drifts within this great river of time, moving steadily toward its own sea. The lullaby of creation is long, but its song is soft, and it sings of a universe that never rushes, yet always arrives. And within that song, the story does not close, but leans forward once more, as gently as a breath preparing to be released. And from the widening calm, the story drifts onward, leaning gently into the next breath. In the hush of that early cosmos, clouds of hydrogen and helium began to gather, drawn not by haste, but by the quiet pull of gravity, that subtle attraction that bends space as though it were a fabric folding in on itself. These clouds did not rush to meet, but drifted together as mist does in the valley at dawn, joining little by little, their weight growing until pressure deepened within. The silence was not broken. It only grew heavier, like the air before a candle is lit. In that weight, the first warmth began to stir. The gas, compressed softly through time, found itself kindling at the heart of these clouds. Atoms pressed so close, they began to fuse, hydrogen weaving into helium, releasing energy not with thunder, but with glow. It was the birth of the first stars, and they shone not as explosions, but as hearths, steady and warm in the endless dark. Each star was like a flame, caught in stillness, a single ember rising out of shadow, its radiance quiet, yet unyielding. The night was no longer empty. It had found its first lamps. Picture the image of a fire sparked in the depth of night. The spark is small, but the darkness bends gently around it, softening, loosening as if to make space. The universe, in its long silence, accepted this new glow, in the same way, not rejecting the dark, but folding light into it, creating balance. These first stars were delicate, yet their presence carried the promise of all brightness to come, each one a small hearth in the cold, each one a breath of warmth spreading outward. The ancient Maya once looked upward at this river of stars and imagined it as a serpent, luminous and immense, winding across the sky. To them, the Milky Way was a living presence, a celestial being whose body shimmered with countless flames. In their vision, the universe was not empty at all, but filled with the gentle motion of this shining creature, a reminder that even in silence there is rhythm, even in stillness there is flow. The serpent did not strike. It glided carrying the light of a million hearths along its endless path. In this way, myth and science rest beside one another. The stars born of gathering gas and fusion are the same stars imagined as scales upon the body of the sky serpent. Both speak of patience, both of quiet unfolding. The physics of pressure and energy is softened when seen as the rising of a flame in a great chamber of night, and the myth of the serpent gains a deeper hush when one knows that each scale is a sun, each flicker a hearth born out of silence. These first fires spread their light slowly. Their photons, the carriers of brightness, wandered outward, brushing the vast fabric of space, like soft strokes of paint across an endless canvas. No corner was rushed, no darkness forced to vanish. Instead, the glow drifted patiently, like a tide, spilling outward without hurry. Light and dark moved together, balancing as inhale and exhale, as shadow and shimmer, each holding the other in quiet embrace. The stars themselves breathed in long rhythms. They were not eternal, but in their time they shone steadily, their fusion an endless pulse of warmth. To picture this is to imagine logs placed upon a fire that burns through a long night, each one glowing for hours before yielding its heat to the air. The cosmos was warmed not by a blaze, but by countless such embers scattered through its silence. The lullaby of creation deepened here, for every flicker was a note, every glow a tone woven together into a symphony of light. From these hearths, everything that followed would find its beginning. The heavy elements, carbon, oxygen, iron, were born within the hearts of stars, shaped by their fusion, carried outward by their winds, scattered when they softened into endings. Yet in this moment of first kindling, nothing hurried. It was only the quiet fact of flame resting in darkness, carrying with it the seed of all things yet to come. One may rest in the thought that the universe found warmth in the same way a traveler finds comfort in a fire's glow, not sudden, not violent, but deeply reassuring. The first stars were such fires, placed across the sky, like candles in a vast cathedral, each one illuminating space, without diminishing the silence around it. They were not a departure from calm, but an extension of it, a new rhythm folded into the breath of creation. And as these early hearths glowed, the story leaned forward again, as softly as smoke, rising upward, carrying the thought toward what would follow, unhurried, endless, and serene. From the glow of the first fires, the question rises gently, what is a star? Stars may be described simply as spheres of gas, gathered by gravity and burning softly in their own light. Yet this description, while true, feels less like a lesson and more like a gentle whisper, for what it really means is that stars are the quiet hearths of the universe, glowing with the warmth of fusion deep within. The word fusion can sound firm, but softened it becomes the image of hydrogen folding into helium, like two drops of dew merging into one, releasing a glow that drifts outward, filling the dark with radiance. In this way, a star is not a solid thing, not stone, not earth, but a flame without wood, a fire held steady by the weight of its own being. Imagine a great kitchen, vast as the universe itself, where each hearth is kindled, not by hands, but by the natural gathering of gases drawn together by the pull of gravity, that invisible thread that binds all things. The fire then holds not wild and consuming, but steady like an ember that has always known how to breathe. To picture it, more simply, a star is a sphere of light suspended in night, a firefly, too great to be caught, yet gentle enough to be seen from far away. The gases within it, mostly hydrogen and helium, are not chaotic, but part of a rhythm like air moving in and out of a sleeping chest. In the stillness of space, they press together, and in that embrace, light is born, not in a rush, not in a clash, but in the same inevitability with which dawn follows night. The image of fire often comes to mind, but this fire is softer, less fierce, more patient. It does not consume wood or leave ashes. It transforms within itself endlessly, like a candle that never burns down, but keeps remaking its flame. In this sense, stars are like the breaths of the universe, each one a glowing inhale, each one an exhale of light. Their glow travels outward across distances so vast that the measure of them feels more like silence than numbers. And yet, even from that silence, the light arrives a reminder of the hearths that burn far away. Some cultures have imagined the stars as sparks from a divine fire scattered into the sky. Others saw them as eyes watching from above, or as campfires of ancestors resting in the heavens. The Maya spoke of the Milky Way as a shining serpent, a trail of countless stars woven together, curling across the dark like a gentle mark of their gathering. These images, though born of a story, carry a truth, for stars are indeed both science and symbol, both fire and lullaby, both matter and dream. To think of a star as only a ball of gas would be to miss its softness. Better to see it as a lamp suspended in endless night, a steady glow reminding that even in darkness, warmth endures. Hydrogen becomes helium. Helium rests in the glow, and the star continues, patient and enduring, like a song that hums beneath silence. No rush disturbs it. No force compels it faster. It burns in its rhythm, calm as a tide, endless as breath. And so, stars may be thought of as fires. In the great kitchen of the cosmos, each one a small hearth, in a night that seems without end. They gather, they glow, they give without demand. Their presence is a comfort, a reminder that light can exist without hurry, that warmth can live in silence, that the universe carries with it its own quiet embers. In their glow, the story continues to drift, not closed, not ending, but leaning onward as softly as one breath following another. From the quiet glow of the stars, the story moves onward toward the cycles that hold both endings and beginnings. Stars are not eternal, though their lives stretch longer than the span of imagination. They burn gently for ages until the rhythm within them changes and their light begins to soften. What seems like an ending is less a disappearance than a transformation, like autumn leaves drifting away to make room for spring. A star carries within it the seeds of what will follow, even as its own glow begins to fade. The universe, in its patience, turns endings into openings, just as night quietly turns into day. When a star's long breath reaches its final pause, it does not fall into silence without a trace. Its matter, shaped over countless cycles, is released, spread outward into the fabric of space. These scattered elements are not lost. They drift like pollen, carried on wind, waiting to settle into new forms. Heavy elements, those born in the deep furnaces of stars, are set free, becoming the building blocks of worlds to come. The end of the star is therefore also a beginning, gentle and unhurried, as though creation itself were breathing again. One may imagine this process as a tree that at the end of a season lets its fruit fall to the earth. The tree may grow quiet, its branches bare, but within the fallen seeds lies the promise of new growth. So too with stars, their final release is not destruction, but a sowing of potential. Each fragment carries within it the quiet possibility of forming into planets, oceans, and perhaps in time even life. In this way, the cycle of stars is a cycle of renewal, soft and ceaseless, echoing the rhythms of breath and rest. The image of a star's end is sometimes told as a great flare, yet even such a vision can be softened. It is less an explosion to fear than a lantern that grows too full of flame, sending sparks into the air, which drift cool and settle into the soil of the night sky. Those sparks are elements carbon-oxygen iron, each one a thread that will be woven into the next tapestry. The vastness absorbs them without rush, and in time they gather again as dust forms clouds and clouds form stars once more. It is in this patient recycling that the universe whispers of its continuity. Nothing is wasted, nothing is truly gone. The atoms in distant galaxies may already have passed through many such cycles, changing form again and again, each time finding a new expression. The body of a star may fade, but its essence lingers, stretched across space. Woven into the quiet fabric of creation, one can think of it as a song that never ends, but moves from verse to verse, each phrase fading into the next, each silence holding the shape of future notes. Ancient cultures often saw these rhythms not as endings, but as transformations. The Maya looked at the glowing band of the Milky Way and imagined a vast serpent, luminous and alive, winding its way across the dark sky. To them, the countless stars were scales of a great being, shimmering softly as it moved. This image of the serpent reminds that what appears as countless points of light are in truth connected, joined in a flowing body that curves through time and space. The death of a star in such a vision is simply the serpent shedding its skin, leaving behind what is old so that something new may grow. To rest with this thought is to feel how naturally endings and beginnings blend. The cycle of stars is not abrupt. It is slow, measured, patient, like the flow of a river finding its way to the sea. Matter drifts outward, cools and gathers again each stage, following without strain, without haste. The cosmos breathes in these rhythms, inhaling and exhaling across ages, and in that breath, the story of stars continues. Each generation gives itself to the next, carrying forward the lullaby of creation soft and unbroken. And so the end of a star is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of another chapter, quiet and certain, written in elements that drift like seeds across the fields of space. The universe holds these seeds in silence, letting them rest, letting them wait until the time is right for them to glow again. In this way, the story of stars is the story of cycles endless and calm, a rhythm without conclusion. The calm widens once more, and from the hush of these cycles, the story leans onward as though another breath were preparing to rise. From the slow breath of stars, ending and beginning again, the story drifts onward toward the gathering of countless lights into shapes vast and enduring. As stars formed and released their quiet elements, they did not remain scattered in endless distance. Slowly, gently, the pull of gravity, soft as an unseen hand, drew them together. This gathering was not rushed, not sudden, but like ripples on a lake, finding one another, merging into larger circles that spin and widen. Over ages, unmeasured clusters of stars became families, and families became galaxies, each a swirl of light against the silence of night. A galaxy may be thought of as a great spiral, yet not one that tears through the dark. Instead, it turns with the patience of water caught in a whirlpool, circling and circling, quiet and steady, never hurried. The stars within it shine like sparks, floating on the surface, each moving with its companions, all part of a single motion. Though the distances are vast, the rhythm is gentle, a shared turning that lasts beyond the span of any single star. To imagine this is to picture a pool of still water where a small swirl begins. The swirl grows wider, not by force, but by the natural flow of currents, until it holds everything within its calm rotation. Galaxies move in just such a way, their spirals stretching outward like arms, not grabbing, not tearing, only drifting in long arcs. The light they carry is drawn into patterns that soothe rather than disturb, a choreography of stars turning as one. These galaxies, though immense, are not alone. They drift across space in quiet groups like islands in an ocean that stretches forever. Each island glimmers softly, its shores made of stars, its depths filled with unseen matter that holds it together like roots beneath soil. Between them lies darkness, wide and silent, yet even this darkness carries the current of their motion as though all were part of the same great sea. Ancient eyes looked upward and saw these swirls of light, though they did not know them as galaxies. To some, they were rivers flowing across the heavens, silver streams dividing sky from sky. To others, they were fields of grain sown by unseen hands stretching endlessly across the dome of night. In every story, the galaxies were not abrupt or violent, but gentle in their persistence, steady in their glow. They reminded that creation is not only about beginnings and endings, but about forms gathering into harmony. In the hush of their unfolding galaxies found their own rhythm. Stars within them burned, lived, and faded, yet the galaxy itself endured, holding the memory of countless generations. Each turn of the spiral carried within it the whispers of stars long gone, the light of stars still burning, and the promise of stars yet to be. The galaxy was not one life, but many woven together into a single unbroken flow. One may think of it as a great wheel turning slowly in silence, its spokes made of light, its rim stretched so wide that no end can be seen. This wheel does not rush forward. It simply turns, and in its turning, the universe finds balance. The motion itself is soothing, like a pendulum swaying, like a tide rising and falling, always repeating, always returning. Each galaxy, whether spiral or elliptical round, or stretched, is part of this great wheel, circling in quiet synchrony. To rest in this thought is to feel how calm the universe truly is. Even in its vast gatherings, even in its endless rotations, there is no urgency, only the assurance of patterns repeating over time. Galaxies breathe in silence, inhaling stars into clusters, exhaling them into arms that stretch outward. Their glow spreads across the night, not in haste, but in a rhythm that matches the long breath of creation itself. And so, galaxies became the great homes of stars, the vast cradles in which countless suns and worlds would reside. Their spirals are lullabies written in light. Their rotations are songs without end. They are not rushed into being, nor hurried in their motion. They drift, they turn, they endure. To gaze upon them, even in thought, is to feel the depth of calm that holds the cosmos together, the patience of a current that never breaks. The silence deepens again, and in its depth the story leans forward as though another breath were waiting to unfold, carrying creation from galaxies toward the worlds that will form within them. From the spirals of galaxies turning gently in the dark, the story drifts onward toward a moment when the universe no longer held only scattered sparks, but became filled with a glow spread wide across space. In the beginning, the stars were few, their light like single candles, flickering against vast shadows. Yet over time, more gathered, more ignited, and the dark began to soften. Slowly, as though dawn were rising across a horizon without end, The universe filled with stars, each one a point of brightness, breathing quietly in the silence. Their glow did not banish the dark, but mingled with it, forming a balance where light and shadow shared the same endless expanse. The presence of so many stars changed the character of the sky. No longer was it an empty canvas with only a handful of scattered points. It became a tapestry woven of countless flames, each tiny in itself, yet together shaping the great rivers and clusters of light that gave the universe its form. And though this weaving was immense, the quiet of space remained, holding the glow as gently as soil holds the roots of a forest. To imagine this is to picture standing in a meadow at night, watching as fireflies appear one by one. At first, they are only a few, their flickers faint against the shadows. But slowly, more arrive until the meadow itself seems alive with tiny lanterns. They do not make noise, they do not startle. Their glow spreads gently, as though night itself had chosen to breathe in light. So too did the stars appear, until the universe seemed filled not with emptiness, but with a calm radiance that drifted endlessly outward. Even as the light spread, silence remained its companion. For light does not speak. It shines, it lingers, it rests. The photons that traveled across space moved with patience, never in haste, never demanding to be seen, but only carrying the quiet memory of the stars that released them. The stillness of the cosmos held them all, as though every glow were wrapped in a larger hush, a cradle where brightness and silence could sleep side by side. In the eyes of ancient watchers, this sky became more than scattered sparks. It became a map, a story, a ceiling of constellations. Shapes were drawn in the patterns of light, stories whispered about animals, hunters, and rivers that crossed the heavens. These stories were soft attempts to explain the glow above, but even without names, the light itself spoke. It spoke not with words, but with presence, reminding that the universe had grown from darkness into a vast field of stars, each one a gentle fire in the long night. The galaxies continued their rotations, and within them the stars burned steadily, their light flowing outward until even the most distant corners of space were touched. It was not sudden nor complete, for shadow still remained. Yet the balance was graceful. Darkness became a resting ground for light, and light became a quiet song within darkness. Together they shaped a cosmos that was no longer hidden, but softly illuminated, like a long night finally leaning toward morning. To think of it now is to picture an ocean filled with lanterns set afloat. The surface remains calm, the waters still deep and silent, but above them, tiny lights drift outward, spreading across the horizon until no edge is without glow. The silence of the sea is not broken by their presence. Instead, it is deepened, made more soothing by the gentle shimmer that rests upon it. The universe, in its fullness, was just so vast, luminous, and yet still hushed, still wrapped in its own endless calm. This filling of light did not erase the quiet, but gave it a new texture. Space was no longer only shadow. It became shadow and shimmer together. The glow of stars made the silence easier to see, for, in contrast, the stillness revealed itself even more deeply. What appeared to be empty was now a background for light, a canvas that showed its beauty by holding it in place. Without the silence, the light would have nowhere to rest. Without the light, the silence would be unseen. And so, the universe reached a stage where both were present, where darkness continued, but was softened by glow, and light spread, but never hurried. Billions of stars burned, yet their song was not a roar, only a hum too soft to hear, too steady to end. It was a lullaby, written in fire and shadow, a balance so vast that time itself seemed to slow within it. In this way, the cosmos became luminous without losing its stillness. The dark remained, but now it was filled not empty. It was quiet, but not barren. The stars were countless, yet each one shone alone, breathing its own rhythm, adding its glow to the great calm expanse. Together, they made the universe bright, yet not restless alive, yet not hurried. And within this balance, the story drifts onward once more, as though another breath of light were waiting to be released, guiding the thought toward the worlds that would soon begin to form among the stars. From the glow of countless stars, the story leans onward into the quiet gathering that followed their birth. Around the young stars, dust lingered, not scattered aimlessly, but circling, pulled gently into orbits by the silent pull of gravity. This dust was fine, like powder drifting in the air, yet in its repetition and in its circling, it began to find one another. Slowly, particles touched, then clung their presence no longer separate, but joined, and in that joining the seeds of worlds began to appear not in haste, not in noise, but with the patience of countless turns. The process was delicate, like flour kneaded into dough, each grain soft on its own, yet together forming something larger, something whole. Each fragment of rock and ice, small and fragile, became part of a larger shape as they rolled and pressed together. The orbits carried them in circles, again and again, until their shapes grew round, smooth and steady. In this quiet kneading of dust into form, the first planets began to emerge. It was not sudden. Nothing hurried. The dust clouds swirled for ages, like mist over a lake, until enough had gathered for the faint outlines of worlds to appear. First small, like pebbles, then larger like boulders. They continued to draw in what drifted nearby. Step by step, orbit by orbit, they grew heavier, rounder, steadier, until the shapes of planets could no longer be denied. Each world was a circle, in the making the natural result of turning and pressing the soft rhythm of dust, becoming whole. To imagine it is to picture dough rolled slowly between hands, the powder no longer loose, but folding into itself, gaining weight, gaining form. Or perhaps it is like drops of water merging into larger drops on glass, each one growing till it rolls downward with calm inevitability. These are images of quiet gathering of patience rewarded by shape. So too did the planets gather, each in its own place, held by the quiet arms of the stars around which they circled. The silence of space remained even as these worlds grew. There was no clash to disturb the stillness, no alarm to announce their coming. The motions were gentle, the pace steady, the unfolding unhurried. Dust turned to stones, stones turned to spheres, and spheres settled into orbits, each finding its place in the calm fabric of the cosmos. And though the process was vast beyond measure, it carried the same softness as breath, an inhale drawing fragments inward, an exhale settling them into roundness. Ancient watchers told stories of creation that echoed this rhythm. Some spoke of gods shaping clay, rolling it between their palms to form the first lands and seas. Others pictured the cosmos itself as a potter spinning a wheel, slowly molding circles of matter into vessels for life. These images may be myths, but they carry the same softness as the science behind them, for both describe a quiet shaping, a patient forming and unfolding that requires no haste. In time, the planets were no longer only dust or stone. They became worlds in waiting surfaces upon which seas could one day gather, skies could one day stretch, and perhaps even life could one day rest. Yet even here, the silence remained. Nothing rushed. The young planets turned slowly, in their paths warmed by the stars that lit them, cooled by the shadows that embraced them, each one a sphere of potential, cradled by space. It is soothing to think of them this way, not as fiery rocks hurled violently into place, but as round quiet shapes, formed by patience, guided by calm. Their birth was less an explosion than a long exhale, less a battle than a weaving, less a clash than a song sung under breath. And in that song, the rhythm of the cosmos continued, stars, glowing planets, circling silence, holding all. The image returns of dough, kneaded gently, or water drops joining on glass. From small to large, from scattered to gathered, from loose to whole. This is how the planets formed not as noise, but as rest taking shape. The universe wide and still allowed them to become, and in their becoming, the story of creation deepened. And so, from dust came worlds, each one turning quietly in the night. They were round, because roundness is the shape of rest, the form that requires no edges, no strain. They were steady because steadiness is the rhythm of patience, the outcome of time moving without hurry. And within this forming, the silence remained as though even planets are lulled into being by the cosmos's endless breath. In this calm unfolding, the story does not close, but prepares gently to move on toward the next thought, waiting quietly to rise like another breath, deepening into the stillness. From the drifting of planets, the story leans quietly toward one, in particular a sphere where water and air found a place to rest. Amid the silent orbits, Earth gathered itself, not with force but with balance, a round cradle of stone wrapped in layers of air, a soft veil that clung close and did not let go. Within this veil, water began to flow, not as torrents first, but as condensation, as droplets that merged and gathered until oceans lay across its surface, like mirrors, reflecting the newborn sky. The planet was neither the largest nor the smallest, but it carried within its calm proportions the ingredients of gentleness, solid ground-flowing water, moving air, all resting together, as though the cosmos had decided to weave a place of quiet balance. The oceans covered much of the surface, stretching blue and unbroken, a fabric that shimmered under the gaze of the young sun. Water, so simple in its name, was profound in its presence, a liquid blanket that both cooled and cradled. The seas rippled like breaths upon stone, each wave a soft exhale against the shore. Above them, clouds drifted born of vapor, rising, forming patterns as delicate as sighs drawn upon the canvas of air. Between sea and sky, the rhythm of evaporation and rain began a cycle unending, like the inhaling and exhaling of a sleeper lost in rest. The air itself was a mixture, gases flowing together, invisible, yet essential. Oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide, all were present in quiet balance, each one softened into place by the slow alchemy of time. This atmosphere was more than chemistry. It was a cloak translucent and fragile, yet strong enough to shield, soft enough to let light in. Sunlight filtered through it, gently, not harsh, but softened into warmth, the way dawn's rays slip through mist and scatter across a meadow. This cloak of air was the lullaby of the planet, a constant hum that carried life's possibility long before life itself had arrived. Earth's colors deepened, blue of water, white of clouds, green of future growth. But even then, before forests and creatures, the hues were already serene, as though the planet knew it was a seed waiting to bloom. Mountains rose slowly, the crust of the world folding like fabric pushed gently upward. Valleys sank, collecting rivers that wound their way to the sea, silver threads woven into the larger blue. Volcanoes breathed fire, but even that fire cooled in time, turning into islands where life would one day root. Nothing hurried, nothing pressed. The world shaped itself as slowly as stone erodes, as softly as clay settling underwater. To think of Earth is to think of roundness, softened a globe, turning in silence, its spin steady and unbroken. This turning was its heartbeat, a rhythm so calm it could carry centuries without faltering. Night fell, and day returned, not as interruptions, but as cycles, as natural as breath. The sun warmed its face, the stars soothed its shadow, and together they cradled it in a balance of light and dark warmth and cool presence and pause. Ancient voices later spoke of Earth as a mother, as a cradle, as a living being whose body was soil and whose breath was air. In myths, it was painted as a goddess or a serpent, as a turtle or a tree, each image soft, each one echoing the sense that this sphere was more than stone. Even in those stories, Earth was not fierce, but nurturing, not a battlefield, but a womb. To imagine it this way is to feel its gentleness, its patience, its endless willingness to hold and to give. In truth, Earth was a seed of the cosmos, small against the expanse, but carrying within it the fullness of ocean's air and cycles. Its waters mirrored the stars. Its lands waited quietly. Its air hummed like a faint song. Nothing needed to be rushed, for the planet itself was the embodiment of waiting, of preparation, of holding the right conditions until the time would come. The small blue seed turned within the arms of space, a jewel not because of its shine, but because of its softness. It was not made precious by rarity, but by balance, the meeting of solid liquid and gas, each one finding its rhythm beside the others. And as it turned, its lullaby continued, the waves rising and falling, the winds circling the air, flowing in and out, a perpetual breath that filled silence with the possibility of life. And so, Earth rested in its orbit, not hurried, not loud, but steady and blue, the quiet seed of all that would follow. Its oceans, its sky, its ground all lay in harmony, waiting like a cradle filled with calm. And within that cradle, the story drifts onward, preparing to speak of what would stir within these waters as naturally as dawn follows night. From the turning of the blue seed, the story drifts gently toward what rested within its waters, as though the oceans themselves had been holding their breath, waiting for the next unfolding. Beneath the wide expanse of sky, the seas stretched deep and dark, yet carrying within their quiet depths a chemistry soft as sleep. Molecules moved in stillness, colliding not with violence, but with the patience of waves meeting the shore. Out of this calm repetition, patterns began to linger, shapes forming that were not yet alive, but carried the whisper of what life might be. The ocean floor was their soil, warm currents, their cradle, and within this silent nursery, the first hints of vitality stirred like seeds, resting in the dark before rain arrives. It was not sudden. It was not loud. Life began in the smallest of gestures, invisible, yet steady, like the faint vibration of a string touched gently by air. Carbon, joined with hydrogen-nitrogen, found oxygen, and from these unions came the first threads of possibility. They did not rush to become, they simply lingered, floating in water that both held and shielded them. To picture this moment is to imagine droplets of dew gathering on a leaf, small and delicate, yet carrying the promise of a forest within their shine. As the cycles of tide and heat continued, these fragile combinations repeated themselves, finding rhythm in the waves. Strands of matter folded into themselves, curling softly as if trying to remember a pattern too ancient to speak. These were the earliest steps toward the long unfolding of biology. Though no eye could see them, no ear could hear. They were like murmurs beneath silence, like the breath of earth itself turning inward. In the patience of water, these whispers deepened until at last the first true cells began to stir. A cell is simple when named, yet within its simplicity lies the depth of oceans. Surrounded by a membrane, it holds inside the essence of organization like a droplet of oil floating in water, distinct yet part of the whole. Within it, molecules moved in circles, repeating like dancers, turning endlessly in quiet rhythm. Energy flowed softly through, carried by reactions that glowed, not with flame but with steadiness. It was not a spark, but a hum, the beginning of a song too slow to be heard. These first cells, fragile, yet persistent, were the earliest forms of life. They floated in the seas, drifting with currents that moved like the slow breathing of the planet. Some found warmth near vents on the ocean floor, where minerals rose like smoke, dissolving in water. Others lingered in shallow pools, where sunlight touched the surface gently. Wherever they were, they did not hurry. They divided slowly, one becoming two, two becoming many, as natural as ripples spreading across a pond after a single drop. The process was neither forced nor rushed. It was simply the nature of life to extend itself quietly, patiently, with the softness of roots spreading through soil. To think of these beginnings is to imagine a seed beneath earth, wading through cold, until at last rain arrives. The seed does not know when it will sprout, but when the time is right, the shell cracks and a tender shoot rises. So too did life rise within the oceans, not as an army, but as a sprouting small and delicate, yet carrying within it the whole possibility of forests, rivers, creatures, and voices to come. Ancient peoples, gazing at water, often imagined it as the source of life. To them, seas were mothers, rivers were veins, rain was breath. In many myths, the world begins from water, and in this way, the stories echo truth. For it was indeed the ocean that first held the cradle of vitality. The Maya spoke of a great sea before creation, while in Mesopotamia, the goddess of waters gave rise to gods and earth alike. Such tales do not clash with science. They flow beside it, each one a reminder that life emerges most gently from liquid depths. The oceans, then, were not empty. They were fields where invisible seeds had been sown, and in time the fields began to stir. One cell became many cells, became colonies, and slowly the silent waters gained a rhythm beyond waves. It was the rhythm of life breathing for the first time, though it was so faint that only imagination can hear it now. Earth's lullaby deepened. Blue seas shimmered, not only with sunlight, but with movement too small to see, yet large enough to change the course of the cosmos. Life fragile, yet unyielding, had taken its first breath, not with noise, but with silence, not with force, but with patience. It grew the way dawn grows from night, softly, steadily, inevitably. And from those waters the story drifts onward once again, as though the next chapter waits in the quiet pause between tides. From the quiet waters where life first stirred, the story drifts onward, carried gently by time, until the day when creatures with curious eyes learned to lift their gaze. When human beings first walked upon the land, the sky stretched above them as an endless canopy, dark at night and glowing by day. The stars were countless, each one a faint ember, shimmering in the great stillness, and in their glow, people found direction across plains, forests, and seas. They did not name them as distant suns yet, but as patterns, shapes, and gentle companions in the silence of night. The constellations became guides, their positions forming maps, not drawn on paper, but written softly in light, as though the heavens themselves offered a path for wandering feet, sailing across waters or moving through deserts. The stars were anchors, steady in their rhythm, patient in their turning. The pole star held its place, unmoving to the eye, and around it the others drifted like leaves circling on a slow current. To follow this motion was to follow time itself, to measure nights, to mark seasons, to find one's way home. Each glimmering point was more than brightness. It was a breath of orientation, a reminder that the sky, though distant, could lean down to touch the earth with guidance. Yet beyond their use as markers, the stars carried something deeper, a quiet invitation to wonder. As fires dimmed on the ground and silence settled over villages, the heavens offered a second fire, spread wide, and without smoke, endless in its reach. People lay back and watched not only with need, but with awe, sensing that these lights were older than memory and greater than any journey. Their presence was not hurried, not loud, only steady, like a lullaby hummed by the universe itself. Stories began to take root. The Greeks imagined Orion the hunter. The Egyptians saw the goddess Nut arching across the heavens. The Maya traced a serpent of light weaving through the Milky Way. These were not merely tales, but gentle ways of placing meaning upon the sky, as though to weave human lives into the fabric above. Myth and memory intertwined, and each culture in its own way shaped the stars into mirrors of the earth below. They became rivers, animals, heroes, and gods drifting overhead, like dreams stretched across the night. In this slow weaving of observation and imagination, questions began to arise. Where did the lights come from? Were they fires lit by unseen hands or windows into another realm? Did the sky have a beginning, or had it always been? Such thoughts were not yet science, but they were the earliest echoes of curiosity, as soft as ripples, moving outward from a stone placed gently in water. To gaze upward was not only to find direction, but to search for origin. The stars moved in cycles, and people began to measure them, not with numbers at first, but with rhythms. The return of certain constellations marked planting and harvest. The rising of the sun at different points on the horizon marked solstice and equinox. Time itself seemed written in the sky, and in its patient unfolding, human beings began to sense that the universe was not random, but ordered, as though breathing in patterns too vast to see at once. The quiet act of looking upward became a thread that stretched through generations. Parents pointed out the same stars to children, sailors taught apprentices the same paths across the sea, storytellers retold the same myths by the same firesides. The stars were steady, yet they carried the memory of countless eyes that had gazed before. In this way, the sky became a bridge between past and present, a continuity unbroken, like a song that never ceased, only passed gently from one voice to the next. Over time, the questions deepened. Could the sky itself have a story? Could the stars be born, live, and fade as living things do? The thought lingered soft, but persistent, as though the heavens whispered of their own history. And though no answers were clear, the asking itself became part of humanity's breath, as steady as the rise and fall of the chest in sleep. To look upward was to rest in wonder, and in that wonder, to feel both small and held like a child, listening to the ocean without needing to understand its depth. And so, human beings did not only walk the earth, they also lived beneath the stars, guided by their light, comforted by their steadiness, inspired by their mystery. In their glow, people found both direction and meaning, both practical maps and gentle dreams. The night sky was not silent to them. It was a companion, a teacher, a quiet mirror of questions, too vast to answer, but too beautiful to ignore. From this gaze, the story continues, leaning forward into the next unfolding, as softly as the stars themselves drift across the endless dark. From the gaze, lifted toward the sky, the thought drifts onward, carried as lightly as air moving between one silence and the next. For a long time, Earth was imagined as the center, a still foundation around which the heavens turned. The sun rose, and set the stars circled patiently, and it seemed as though everything bowed to this single sphere. Yet, in the quiet unfolding of knowledge, it became clear that Earth was not the anchor of all things, but a traveler itself, moving through a vaster rhythm. The realization did not shatter the world. Instead, it softened perspective, showing that even the ground beneath was part of a greater breath. To think of Earth now is to picture a single note in a symphony, faint but necessary sounding, its tone among countless others. The planet turns with its steady rotation, each day, a breath in each night, a breath out, its orbit around the sun, another longer rhythm, like the rise and fall of a chest in deep sleep. These motions are not hurried nor loud, but woven gently into the larger cadence of the cosmos. In this way, Earth does not command the center, but drifts a small voice in the endless choir of stars. This shift of vision is soothing when seen in its quiet truth. Earth is not diminished by being small. It is comforted by belonging. To float in the vastness is not to be lost, but to be part of a greater stillness, a harmony that requires no single center. Just as a river does not need one drop to define it, the universe does not rest upon one world. Instead, each planet, each star, each grain of dust drifts in its place, steady within the larger unfolding. The thought can be softened into an image, Earth as a breath upon a window in winter visible for a moment, then dissolving back into the air that holds it, or as a ripple spreading outward across a pond, faint yet unending, joining others in quiet circles that overlap and continue. The fragility does not bring alarm, it brings rest, for it reminds that everything is transient, yet everything belongs to the same gentle motion. Science names these motions with simple words: orbit, rotation, gravity. Yet each of these terms may be eased into imagery. Orbit is not only a path, it is a slow dance, a looping rhythm repeated without haste. Rotation is not only turning, it is a lull, like a wheel spinning in water, smooth and unbroken. Gravity is not only pull, it is an embrace, invisible yet constant, a hand that holds without pressure. In this softened language, the science itself becomes a lullaby, explaining without pressing, teaching without weight. Earth's smallness is not a loss, but a gift. To be one world among many is to share in an endless expanse, where stars rise and fade, where galaxies swirl like great spirals of mist, where silence itself stretches wider than imagination. Against such immensity, Earth is a pause, a whisper, a single inhalation of the universe. And yet in that whisper, oceans move, forests breathe, winds circle, and life rests in its cradle. The scale is vast, but the rhythm is the same. The rhythm of breath, steady, unbroken, eternal. The thought settles like dusk falling over a quiet field. The sky above stretches farther than sight, yet within it, Earth carries its place, small but sure. To rest in this image is to feel the peace of being part of something immeasurable. There is no need for dominance, no need for centrality. The planet drifts like a leaf in a great current, carried not by force but by the calm inevitability of motion. And in this realization, the universe feels less like a stage with a single actor and more like a sea of voices, each soft, each steady together, forming a hymn too wide to be sung by one alone. Earth's voice is not loud, but it is clear. It is the sound of rivers, flowing of wind through branches of hearts beating quietly in sleep, a voice among voices, a breath among breaths, a rhythm among rhythms. So Earth is not the center, but a note, a pause, a gentle exhalation in the unending song. Its presence is not diminished by this truth. It is illuminated, for in the vastness, the small can still be precious, the quiet can still be heard, and the fleeting can still be eternal when woven into the whole. And as this thought drifts outward, it carries with it the calm reminder the universe does not rush, and neither does Earth. Both move together, patient and unhurried, each breath flowing into the next, each silence deepening into another. The silence lingers, and within its depth, the story leans gently onward, as though the next breath of the cosmos is preparing to unfold. From the quiet thought of Earth's small place, the story continues widening once again, like air slowly filling the chest. The universe is not still, though its movement is not hurried. Space itself stretches, expanding softly, carrying galaxies farther and farther apart. To picture this is not to imagine a violent scattering, but to see a slow river dividing into many streams, each flowing in its own direction, steady, unbroken, without rush. The galaxies drift as though resting upon this current, carried effortlessly, like petals upon water. This expansion has no sound, no edge, No center, only the quiet unfolding of distance. One may think of a fabric drawn gently, its threads loosening, not breaking, creating more space within its weave. Or of a horizon widening in the dim light of dawn, the line between sky and earth stretching as though it too were breathing. The image is not of force, but of calm persistence, a rhythm that continues whether noticed or not. The galaxies that move within this expansion are not in flight, but in drift. Their motion is not an escape, but a part of the fabric itself, like specks of light sewn into a cloth that grows wider with every breath. Each galaxy holds its stars, its planets, its own quiet rhythms, and yet all are carried together in this larger flow. The distances between them grow, yet the silence deepens rather than breaks, for the universe expands not with noise, but with stillness. Science offers simple words for this endless widening space. Expansion motion, but softened, they become more than terms. Expansion can be felt as a sigh lengthening into silence. Space can be seen as a veil spreading gently outward, translucent and endless. Motion can be imagined as drifting clouds, slow and patient, never hurried, yet always changing. With these images, the thought becomes less of an explanation and more of a lull, easing the mind into the rhythm of the cosmos. To rest in this vision is to see galaxies like lanterns glowing faintly, carried apart by a breeze too wide to be felt. The lanterns do not resist. They float easily, their light steady, even as the space between them grows. In this way, the expansion feels not like separation, but like breathing room, the vastness making space for stillness itself. The darkness between the lights deepens, but it is not empty. It is the quiet stage, upon which light continues to shine. The flow of this expansion carries comfort, for in its endlessness there is patience, and in its patience there is calm. No star hurries, no galaxy strains. All are simply part of a widening that began long ago and has never ceased. It is like the river that moves always toward the sea, yet does so without rush, folding its current around stones and banks, flowing without end. So too does the universe carry its galaxies, drifting them apart in a rhythm both invisible and eternal. The thought of such a river softens the heart. To imagine countless galaxies as boats upon its surface is to feel their journey not as loss, but as belonging. Each boat drifts, yet all remain within the same water, the same current, the same flow. Distance does not end connection. It becomes part of the song. The space between galaxies is not silence, but pause, not absence, but rest, the way the quiet between breaths allows the next breath to come. In this vision, the universe is like a great symphony stretched across ages. Each note is faint, spread wide apart, yet all are joined in one unbroken harmony. The expansion is the lengthening of that song, its tempo unhurried, its tones subtle and low. No ear can hear the full music, but the rhythm continues steady as the flow of time, soft as the hum beneath silence. The calm of expansion lies in its constancy. It does not begin and end like a shout. It continues like a murmur, always present, always widening, as though space itself were a breath drawn without end. Galaxies drift farther away, yet the drifting feels less like leaving and more like unfolding, as if the universe is simply giving itself more room to breathe. And so, the image rests, galaxies drifting apart like petals on a river, carried by a current unseen yet unbroken, flowing without pause, without hurry, without end. The river widens, the petals drift, the silence deepens, and still the motion continues soft as breath, long as time. The silence stretches again, and within it, the story prepares to move onward as though another quiet rhythm is waiting to be heard. From the widening river of galaxies, the story drifts inward once more toward the quiet fate of the stars that shine within them. A star, though radiant for ages, is not eternal. Its light is a long breath, drawn slowly, released gently, until at last the rhythm falters and begins to fade. This ending is not sudden, not harsh, but more like a sigh carried across endless time. A quiet surrender after a lifetime of glowing. The brilliance that once reached across space softens, dims, and folds into shadow, leaving behind the silence from which it first rose. To imagine this moment is to picture a lamp in a darkened room, its flame burning steadily through the night until the oil is gone and the light grows faint. There is no violent extinguishing, only a steady waning, like dusk descending after a long day. The glow that once warmed the space remains for a while, lingering in memory before giving way fully to stillness. The star, like the lamp, does not end in emptiness, but in a pause that carries the memory of its light. In the language of science, this fading comes when fuel, the very breath of the star, is spent. Yet the word fuel need not feel mechanical. It may be softened into the thought of breath itself, each inhale and exhale stretched across millions of years. When the breath is finally drawn to its close, the star sighs into rest. This rest may take many forms, some small, some vast, but each one is part of the same long rhythm, the life of a star, as one deep inhale, and its ending as one patient exhale. Some stars, gentle in size, shrink quietly into white dwarfs, faint embers glowing softly against the night. Others, heavier and older, swell outward before releasing themselves, scattering elements like seeds cast into the dark. Even the word explosion can be softened here, imagined not as thunder, but as a flower releasing its petals, a slow dispersal of what was once held tight. The darkness that follows is not barren, for within it rest the gifts of the star, the heavier elements that will one day shape planets, oceans, and life itself. It is comforting to think that in every ending there is continuation. The iron in stones, the oxygen in air, the carbon in every living form, all were once part of stars that sighed into stillness long ago. The death of a star is not a void, but a renewal like leaves falling quietly into soil, breaking down and giving rise to forests yet to come. In this way, the universe holds a cycle, not of destruction, but of gentle return, where every fading light is also the planting of new beginnings. To rest in this thought is to see the universe as a vast field, each star, like a stalk of grain ripening in its time, bowing softly and finally releasing seeds into the wind. The stalk withers, yet the field remains ever renewed, ever full. The cosmos too renews itself in this way, turning the sigh of one star into the breath of many more. In myth and memory, people have long imagined the fading of stars, not as loss, but as passage. Some cultures saw the dying star as a traveler slipping beneath the horizon to rise again elsewhere. Others pictured the end of a star as the eye of the night, closing only to open in another dawn. These stories, gentle as they are, remind that endings can be seen as journeys, each step part of a larger path that continues unseen. The calm of a star's death lies in its inevitability, its place in the greater rhythm of time. Just as every inhale must yield to exhale, every bright flame must one day soften into shadow. Yet in this shadow rests the quiet assurance that life continues, that new stars, new worlds, new songs of light will follow. The universe holds both the breath and the sigh, both the glow and the dimming, as equal parts of its endless lullaby. So the image settles a star, fading like a breath, released its light softening into the fabric of night, its gifts drifting outward like seeds in the wind. The silence that follows is not heavy, but tender, like the pause between heartbeats that allows the next to come. In this way, even the faraway death of stars becomes part of the gentle rhythm that carries the cosmos forward, unhurried, unbroken, without end. And from this sigh of starlight, the story flows onward again, as though another breath were waiting to rise in the stillness. From the fading sigh of stars, the story drifts onward, as though time itself were exhaling into a deeper stillness. The universe, once filled with the warmth countless suns, begins to cool. Not in alarm, not in urgency, but with the patience of a long night settling over a valley. The glow that once pulsed brightly softens, stretching thin, until it feels like a blanket of quiet cold unfurling across infinity. This cooling is not sudden, but gradual, as though each breath of heat drifts outward, dissolving gently into the endless dark. To imagine this is to picture a hearth where fire once burned, now reduced to embers that glow faintly, then dim, leaving behind warmth only in memory. The space that was alive with sparks and flames becomes calm, its silence undisturbed, its shadows wide and deep. The cosmos, like the hearth, is not empty in this dimming, but simply resting, letting go of the light it once carried. In the language of science, this cooling is called expansion, the stretching of space itself. Yet expansion here can be softened into the thought of a river, widening its waters, growing more still as they spread. As galaxies drift farther apart, their light thins until even the brightest becomes like a lantern seen from an immeasurable distance, glowing faintly against an ever-deepening sky. The cold that follows is not harsh, but gentle like the cool of night after the heat of day, a relief that carries its own kind of calm. And in this calm, silence grows. Not a silence that feels empty, but one that feels like rest, like the pause between two breaths. The great arcs of creation, from the birth of stars to the rising of worlds, ease into this stillness as though lulled into slumber by the very space that first gave them form. The universe in cooling is not lost. It is only folding itself into a slower rhythm, a rhythm too long to be measured, too soft to be broken. One may imagine the galaxies as leaves upon a pond, drifting farther apart as the ripples beneath them fade. Each leaf still floats, yet the waters stretch wider, calmer, cooler. The pond, once full of movement, now lies almost motionless, holding its leaves in gentle stillness beneath a pale moon. So too does the universe hold its galaxies, spreading them out upon the quiet waters of space. As light thins, shadows deepen, but these shadows are not fearful. They are vast, protective, like the darkness of a cave, where all sound softens, or the darkness of a forest, where only the hush of wind remains. In this darkness lies comfort, the kind that comes from knowing the cycle is whole. The cosmos began in quiet, and it will return to quiet just as a song begins and ends in silence. This end, often called the heat, death by science, can be seen instead as a gentle cooling, like breath fogging in the night air and then fading away. The phrase itself can feel heavy, yet softened it becomes no more than a lull, the last note of music dissolving into stillness. The universe, like a body, after long exertion, relaxes fully, muscles unwinding, breath slowing warmth, drifting away until only peace remains. And though stars no longer burn and planets no longer turn, the memory of their rhythms will linger in the deep fabric of space, just as waves leave their patterns upon the sand. Long after the tide recedes, the universe will hold the quiet imprint of its long unfolding. Those patterns unseen will rest forever, like faint dreams that once stirred the sleeper before surrendering to rest. So, the image grows soft, a cosmos wrapped in a cool, vast blanket, no longer bright with suns, but not bereft. The blanket is wide, endless calm, like snow stretching over a silent plain, like frost covering the last of autumn's leaves. It is not an ending in fear, but a return to the quiet that was present before the first light ever stirred. And in this return, there is completion. The universe began in stillness, and it will close in stillness like the closing of a circle, like the return of night after day, like the final breath that rests in silence. No noise, no alarm, only the gentle settling of all things into the calm they were always moving toward. From the first spark to the last hush, the cosmos is but one long breath, drawn in with light, released with shadow, and finally folded back into the infinite dark. And so, the story drifts unbroken back into the silence where it first began. From the cool hush of the fading cosmos, the flow moves gently, as though the silence itself were guiding the story toward its final cradle. Emptiness arrives, yet it is not a foe. It comes without edges, without weight, like the soft shadow that settles when the sun has gone down. In that shadow, there is no struggle, no demand. There is only calm, as if the universe has finally set down all burdens and stretched itself beneath an infinite sky. What might once have seemed like nothing becomes instead a gentle bed, wide enough to hold every star, every world, every memory of light that ever flickered across its surface. In this vision, the void is not hollow, but tender. It does not close its hands. It opens them like a mother opening her arms, like a river widening to carry all things toward the sea. Darkness here is not harsh, but soothing, a cool veil that lowers softly, bringing rest to the long journey of galaxies and suns. The hush that spreads across space is not an ending, but a lull, the kind that gathers every rhythm into one final breath and then holds it steady, unbroken. To breathe with this silence is to feel its rhythm slow and steady, like the rise and fall of waves that never hurry, like the pulse of tides moving beneath the moon. Each moment becomes stretched, softened until it no longer carries urgency, only the sweetness of drifting. Just as leaves are carried downstream, without effort, the cosmos drifts into the arms of the void, not resisting, not clinging, only surrendering to the natural flow. In the language of thought, emptiness might be called vacuum, the space without matter, without form. Yet softened it becomes the cradle of all, a vast cushion in which light rests after burning, in which sound dissolves after echoing. It is the background that has always been there, patient and still waiting for creation to tire, waiting to hold it once more in quiet embrace. One could think of it as the deep night sky itself, always present even when the stars burn brightly across its surface. And so, the quiet expands, not loud, not heavy, only soft like mist, spreading across a meadow or snow falling across an endless field. The whole of the universe is wrapped in it, not abandoned, but cared for, not silenced, but hushed into calm. The journey that began with sparks and fire now ends in cool stillness, as though the first cry of creation has finally exhaled into rest. The image may drift into that of a seed, returning to soil, closing its cycle, not in loss but in renewal. What once blazed brightly now lies still like petals, closing at dusk, like the sea smoothing after the storm has passed. The stillness that follows is wide, forgiving, eternal, without edges or fear. It feels like the very breath of time slowing, resting, pausing within itself. And in this pause, there is peace. The emptiness holds all things as gently as sleep holds, the body cradling it in darkness, easing every tension, softening every sound. There is no struggle to remain, no effort to continue. There is only the long drift into quiet, where every beginning and every end folds together, like two shores meeting beneath the tide. Thus the void becomes the final lullaby, not sung with words, but with silence itself, a silence that is not empty, but full of rest, full of gentleness, full of the memory of light dissolving into shade. The vastness of space becomes soft as a sigh, and time itself curls into its cradle, breathing slower, breathing fainter, until breath becomes indistinguishable from stillness, and the cycle is whole, from nothing to light to form and back again. Every motion returns, every sound dissolves, every rhythm folds into the dark. It is not a loss, it is a return, like sleep after wakefulness, like night after day, like the long exhale that follows a final inhale. So, emptiness, once thought of as absence, becomes presence, the presence of calm, of release, of endless quiet. It is the last gift of the cosmos to itself, to lie down in stillness, to be wrapped in cool shadow, to rest without end. And from this cradle of nothing, the universe hums its last lull, soft as a whisper, deep as a breath.